Welcome to another edition of Geopolitics and Empire. Quick reminder, support the transmission if you want to continue to listen or see Geopolitics and Empire on the airwaves. Best way to do that is by becoming a paid subscriber on the Substack, a little over $9 a month or a little over $90 a year. We do private weekly group Zoom chats with supporters only to shoot the breeze on current events. It's a bit of a group therapy session, and I do a weekly roundup of the most important news of the week, and I provide a number of pages of commentary, which people are very much enjoying, and sometimes I bring back past podcast guests to do a live Q&A with members only. You could also donate through Buy Me a Coffee, Donor Box, Wise, and other platforms. Purchase a consultation if you want to chat with me about whatever you like, and check out my affiliates, Legal Shield. If you're in America or Canada, Legal Shield is a great service that it basically you get access to a lawyer for $30 a month for any problem that you need. Also, Escape the Technocracy. It's a great course by Gabriel Custodiet, past guest of mine. If you use the code Geopolitics, you get 15% off, and it's all about how to de-Google your life. Wise Wolf Gold, if you need some gold above phone, and easydns.com for hosting and domains. Use coupon code Geopolitics also to get 15% off. Leave a podcast review as well on Apple, Spotify, wherever you can. Leave a review. That's a big help. Joining us is Hadi Elis, who was a spokesperson for the Canadian Kurdish Federation from 2004 to 2015. He's worked with government officials, departments, mostly foreign affairs officials, including prime ministers. He's written 100 plus articles and attended several domestic and international conferences such as OSCE as an international observer on the Kurdish question. Welcome to Geopolitics and Empire, Hadi.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
So I found you on the Twitter sphere, and you are a prolific commentator, and you are Kurdish. And I've never treated this topic. Over the many years, I've done some very light reading in my studies of international relations on Kurdistan and Iraq and Turkey. But I thought this would be a fascinating topic to learn about, and maybe before getting into the big picture, if you could just tell us a bit about your background and how you ended up in Canada.
Thanks. I am originally Kurdish from Turkey. My hometown is between Turkey, Iraq, and Syria. I went to Turkish schools. I educated in Turkish. I went to Turkish university. I studied sociology. And I was doing my master's in sociology, but I quit, and then I left country. Outside of Turkey, I had more access to resources on Kurdish language, Kurdish history, culture, from Russian language to Spanish, from Spanish, of course, English and French, Italian and German. As far as books written 1840s, 1860s on Kurds, then to the maps published in 1880s, 1890s to show which area was called Kurdistan. Then also some linguistic studies as early as 1880s on Kurdish dialect studies. They were Christian missionaries. They went to Kurdistan and they met the people, and they were friendly people to them. And they tried to translate Bible to Kurdish and convert Kurds to Christianity, because Kurds, Armenians, Assyrians in the region known as Eastern Church. And I believe Assyrians were the first nation after the Christianity declared in that region. And today, I believe they are still called Eastern Church with Armenians together. The Kurdish region didn't change much as population. That Kurds in the area, I could say easily 5,000 years according to written records. But maybe Kurds there much more time, not known as Kurds, because we also know the Kurds known as Medes, M-E-D-E-S, Medes, and Bible mentioned the Medes from the Babylonian time from Akkadian time. And pre-Sumerians, we don't have much. But also some Sumerian records mention Kardaks, Kardukis, and other tribal names in the area that we know that they were Kurds. Then came the Islam, the Arab armies, and they convert Kurds to Islam. But also at the same time, around 9th, 10th century, the Mongolians came from Central Asia and they occupy most of the Kurdistan, the area known as Anatolia, Balkans, Caucasia, Iran, India. And then after that, the Kurdish emirates in the region were very weakened by the Mongol Empire. Then the Turkish tribes came. Then they were much more easy to conquer the area because there was not much resistance to them. And then the Ottomans from 1299 officially become an emirate, a kingdomship in the region, very close to Eastern Byzantium, today's Greece. Then they become bigger, going east, west, north, south in the area. Then it become very big empire to conquer Mecca, Medina, Cairo, Cyprus and Greece, and they conquered Istanbul in 1453. Then the Kurds in the area become divided, some part with the Islamic, some part with the Persian Empire, up to 1514. The Turks and Persians were fighting to get the bigger part of the lands. But then they settled a peace agreement in 1514. So Kurdistan officially divided in two, between Persian Empire and Ottoman Empire. This line fought until 1639, but 1639 they signed the final agreement, which today's current Iran and Turkish border from that time. Didn't change since then. During the Ottomans, there was internal self-determination. Many of the Kurdish kingdomships, they were free as Kurds. So Ottoman recognized Kurds as Kurds. And the land, they call it Kurdistan. And Persian empires also called Kurds as Kurds. And also with the Kurds and Persian, there is genetic relations. We are cousin nations, like Arabs and Jews. It's Kurds and Persians. Then came to World War I. The Ottoman lands divided between French, British. British occupied Iraq, French occupied Syria, and the Turks fought against occupation by English, Italians, and Greeks, and they liberated Anatolia with the general came in from Ottoman Empire known as Mustafa Kemal, but named Atatürk after 1924 when Turkey made their last name law. And he is known still as Kemal Atatürk. Many of the scholarship books, Turkey experts calls him in that name. So if I say in the future Kemal Atatürk, it's the same person known as Mustafa Kemal Pasha. Pasha means like a general or higher than a general, because some of the Kurdish area, Turkish areas or Balkan areas, Kurdish areas captured by the Ottomans, the governor were also called Pasha. So Pasha sometimes has a larger meaning than the general. After the World War I, the Kurdistan, with British creating Iraq, French creating Syria, and Iran and Turkey, divided between 4 countries. There are also Kurdish territories in Armenia and Azerbaijan, but that's not really officially recognized as Kurdish lands.
So effectively, looking at the map, there is no state. You don't have a state. You are like a people group that is part of you. Part of the Kurds are in Syria, another part in Iraq, another part in Iran, another part in Turkey. Is that how it is?
Yes. It is generally recognized that Kurdistan is 4 parts, half of the Kurdish land and Kurdish population is in Turkey. The second largest part and the population is occupied by Iran. And the third biggest population and the land part is in Iraq, also known Iraqi Kurdistan. And the last part, the smallest part, is in Syria by the land and by the population. There is no official census to say this many Kurds exist, but there are certain population censuses done in Iran, Iraq, Syria, Turkey to give us an estimate, an opinion where to start. In 1940s, 1950s, they were saying 15 million Kurds. And then 1960s, 70s, they said 30 million Kurds. 1980, 1990, they were saying 45, 50 million Kurds. Today, it's 60 million Kurds. That's a conservative estimate, honestly. I believe Kurdish number is much bigger, but because you cannot assess it scientifically, so we will go with this number. I believe there are 60 million plus Kurds in the region, 30 million in Turkey, 15 million in Iran, 8 million in Iraq, 2.5 million officially, but more than that, let's say 3 million Kurds in Syria. But there are also large Kurdish diaspora population in northern Iran to the Turkmenistan border, a region called Khorasan. There is maybe 2 million Kurds over there. There is Balochistan in Iran. There is maybe 1.5 million and 2 million Kurds in there. Then the other side of Balochistan is Balochistan occupied by Pakistan. There are also Kurds over there. And even on the Twitter, you will see the last name Kurd. His name is Kamal and the last name is Kurd, Kamal Kurd. His name is Rashid and last name is Kurd. Then we have this in Sudan, in Africa, Tanzania, and Uganda. Then we have Kurdish diaspora population all the way to India, Burma, Rohingya, and Burma. It used to be known Myanmar.
Yeah.
In those areas, there are Kurds. In my research, I could say most of them done through the Mongol invasion. They were escaping from the Mongol armies. So they went to Iran. From Iran, they went to Pakistan. From Pakistan to India, even before. Because Mongols were everywhere. Mongols occupied India, occupied Afghanistan, other areas. So when we come to the World War I, then establishment or creation of Iraq and Syria, Kurdistan officially become 4 parts. The Kurds in Turkey, they asked Turkish administration, Turkish government at that time, that they want to be recognized as Kurds. And in 1916-17, when British occupied Iraq, which is today, in Ottoman, it was a 3 regions of Iraq become Iraq. Iraq was not called Iraq as today Iraq in the Ottoman time. The Iraq was Basra and Baghdad. The Kurdish part was not part of Iraq. But when the British created the Iraq, they forced the Kurds to be part of Iraq. The Kurdish tribal forces at that time appealed the British government to become independent state. But British government of the time said no. So they fight, and British Army, Royal Air Force, used chemical weapons in 1917, 1980s on Kurds very first time. The Kurds met the chemical weapons 1918 through the British. Then Syria created with the Kurds. They negotiated with French government. French government were okay in the beginning, but after 4 years, 5 years talk, in 1932, they declared French mandate of Syria, but Kurds were not recognized. In 1936, Iraq became independent state. The Kurds were not recognized. 1923, Turkey became a Republic of Turkey. They negotiated an agreement with Western powers, but they did not mention Kurds at all. They only mentioned non-Muslim ethnic minorities like Armenians and Jews and Greeks as recognized minorities. This became a problem between Kurdish people and Turks. And the Kurdish people uprised locally in 3-4 different areas. Turkish government was in a very difficult situation. British, French, and Russians, they helped Turkey at that time to suppress Kurdish rebellions. It was not Turkish government fighting Kurds alone. Then we came to World War II. Same thing happened again. The Kurdistan region in Iran, they become an independent in city of Mohabad area. It's called Republic of Mohabad. It survived 1.5 years, but at the end, Russians, British, and Shah regime at that time, they attacked the Kurdish Republic. They destroyed it. The Kurdish leadership of the time were arrested and hanged. The leader of that time was known as Qazi Muhammad. He was a religious scholar, but he was a very patriotic Kurdish nationalist. His readings and his speeches are still circulate among the Kurdish nationalists, and he is highly respected.
Can we say then, for example, you mentioned the Greek minorities, Armenians, and so I think it's kind of obvious, no? So the reason that the Turkish government or whatever government doesn't want to recognize the Kurdish population within their territory, and why they will recognize Greek or whatever minorities, is because a state of Greece already exists. A state of Armenia already exists. So, whatever outcome, these Greeks could go back to Greece or whatever, but there is no state of Kurdistan. And so the danger in the mind of Turkey or Iran is if they begin to recognize the Kurdish population within, to give them more autonomy within Turkey, that could then end up the road to statehood, and they might be afraid of losing a chunk of the Turkish territory, yes?
Yes, but the Turks, the initial leadership were brought up in the Ottoman Empire. So they didn't have idea of the nation state. After 1923, 1924, 1925, when they say we are Turkish, this is the Turkish land. So everyone in Turkey gotta be Turkish. We have to find a way to make them all homogenized. So the Kurds, 1919, 1920, 1921, 1922, 1923, they were with Turks fighting for the liberation, but they had the idea that their region will be self-ruled, self-governed by them. And Ataturk, Mustafa Kemal Pasha at that time, and his circle, they were saying that we will recognize Kurds. And the first post-Ottoman parliament opened in 1920, and there is an official writing from that parliament says, this parliament is Turkish and Kurdish people's parliament. So the Kurds were not expecting 1925, 1926, that Turkey will say, you know what, from now on, you are only Turkish. You accept it? Okay. You don't? Then I'm going to shoot you. Like, I don't give you any other choice. Either you are Turkish or you are dead. So this was the cause for the Kurdish rebellions from 1924, 1925, all the way to 1933, then another 1937, 1938. That was the last one in the central Turkey, that the Kurds really gone through genocide. It's called Area Dersim, Dersim, Dersim genocide. And the people who survived that genocide are still alive. And they witness what happened. They still talk, so that memory is still fresh. Then came to nationalizing things, nationalizing education, nationalizing Turkish flag, nationalizing official language for universities on TV and radio. There was no TV at that time, but the radio. So they were going all over Turkey, every corner of Turkey, to the North Black Sea region, to the Armenian border, to the Iranian border, Iraq and Syria. And they were saying, from now on, you are Turkish. If somebody asks you, you are Turkish. Then they start right on the mountains. How happy one who happy call himself Turkish. If you go to Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir, Aegean coast, Mediterranean coast, you don't see this writing. But if you go to Eastern Turkey, southeastern Turkey, you will see when you are entering the city from the main highway, how happy the one who call himself a Turk. And then on the mountains, like I witnessed it myself, you see how happy the one who call himself a Turk. So when you are not a Turk, you are not a happy guy. You want to be happy, you got to be Turkish. Simplistic, but people reacted. They say, no, I am Kurdish and I'm happy. I get my wedding, I go dance, I listen to my music, everything is okay. They say, no. Your dance, your music, your language is all banned. From now on, you're not going to do it. They even fine people who speak Kurdish a penny for a word. They were arresting people. Oh, you speak half an hour Kurdish, so you have to pay $5. And $5, 1920s, 1930s, very big money. And people fought back. They said, this is ridiculous. Like it's unbelievable. We are on this land before you came. The Turks came to Anatolia at 11th century. Turks were there already 3,000, 4,000 years. But they said, no, Turks are in this area for 5,000 years. They took Turkification of the history, Turkification of the Kurdish historical and cultural civilization, monuments, cave paintings, everything. They said, no, from now on, these are all Turkish. But then the Kurds reacted. They said, no, we can be citizen of Turkey, but we are not Turkish. This guy is an Armenian, he's citizen of Turkey. The other guy is Jewish and he's citizen of Turkey.
That's kind of that's like myself. I can say, I guess I can also say I'm a citizen of Mexico, but I'm not Mexican, right? I'm ethnically Croatian. And I wanted to ask you about the language and what you mentioned previously. I'm surprised the numbers that you gave of 50 to 60 million Kurds. That is a large number, I think Iran has like 90 million people. Where I am in Mexico is 120, 130 million. And so 50, 60 million, that's a large population. The language, so would you say you guys are, I guess, very multilingual? I mean, you're speaking English. I guess you speak Kurdish and Turkish. And so is it the Kurds that live? So if you have the Kurds that live in Iran, do they speak then Kurdish and Farsi and then the others? Or how is it with the language today?
Because they have their national language policies, you are forced to learn Persian, you are forced to learn Arabic in Iraq, you are forced to learn Arabic in Syria. You can use Kurdish between your friends in the village, in the area, but when you go to pharmacy to buy a medication, when you go to hospital for an appointment, when you go to elementary school to register your kids, the grade 1, it has to be done in the national language. So the Kurds in Iraq speak in Kurdish and Arabic. Kurds and French speaking, actually British occupied, so they were speaking Kurdish, English and Arabic in Iraq. And then in French, Syria, it was Kurdish, French and Arabic. In Turkey, it was only Kurdish and Turkish because Turkey was not, mandated by British or mandated by French. So there was no a Western language education for, let's say, 10, 20, 30 years. So Kurds are very multilingual, and Kurdish diaspora, all over Europe, Germany, Sweden, France, Italy, Spain, and now Canada, USA, Australia. And as I said, Kurds are maybe over 100 million globally, if you calculate all the diaspora. Let's say there is at least 3 million Kurds in Germany, so they speak Kurdish, Turkish, Kurdish, Arabic, and German. And the one in France, Paris, let's say 1 million Kurds in there, so they speak Kurdish, Turkish, French, and maybe Arabic if they are from Iraq and Syria. So Kurds are naturally multilingual.
Could I ask you the situation then today a little bit geopolitically? And so, as the history you've given, you've been bounced around by empires, which is not an uncommon thing in history. My own country of Croatia has always been bounced around by empires. You know, a Roman Empire, Austro-Hungarian Empire, and now we call it the European Empire, as I like to call it, Euroslavia, European Union. And then again, just looking at the map, you're in Turkey. And maybe I can get your thoughts on that as well, how you view Erdogan and Turkey. But then you have Syria, and you've got actually in the northeast of Syria, I believe, in the Kurdistan region, there are American troops illegally there, occupying and taking Syrian oil. Of course, America had occupied Iraq. I think in some ways it still is. And so you're, and then we've got Russian troops as well in Syria. You've got different terrorist groups. So it's an interesting situation today. How do you see that whole situation geopolitically, and for you, what are some of the most important actors when it comes to empire and geopolitics?
After the World War II, the world had a new nationalisms. The nationalism before World War II, they were more rational nationalisms. I want to protect my language. I want to protect my culture. I am a nation state. I need a national policy on culture, national policy on language, national policy on education, and national policy on diplomatic recognition. If I want to go to another country and I want them to recognize me as a nation state. So 1958 decolonization, many nation states newly created. So this new nationalism affected by Nazism in Germany, they become racist nationalism. Today's Turkish nationalism, today's Arabic nationalism, today's Persian nationalism, and today's Arabic nationalism in Syria are actually half and half. There are very strong racist elements, racist factors in their nationalism. Iraq become Ba'athist. Ba'athist is pan-Arabism. And Syria become Ba'athist with Hafiz Assad. It is pan-Ba'athism, pan-Arabism. So pan-Arabism is racist to the Kurds. They say the Kurds are guests on their land. Kurds are not the real owner of the land. I mean, Arabs came to Kurdistan through the Islamic armies at the 7th century. Before 7th century, Kurds were still there, and there was no Arabs. Maybe some travelers or some small population between the tribal fightings inter-Arabs. They escaped the region. They come to Iraq. They come to close to Kurdistan. For pan-Arabism and also pan-Turkism, today's Turkish, the Turan, T-U-R-A-N, claims from Balkans to the China, or Turkish area supposed to be one homeland.
Would you say, for me, that's an interesting point, because I've lived, you mentioned Mongolia before, I've lived in the Gobi Desert in southern Mongolia, I've lived in the Kazakhstan, and how do you view Turkey today and Erdogan? It seems he has, some have called it Neo-Ottoman imperial aspirations. He's involved in Azerbaijan, in Kazakhstan, culturally, economically. With Cyprus, the energy in the Mediterranean Sea, and so he's very sort of aggressive. He's an opportunist as well. He works with both East and West to get the best deal that he can get. How do you view Turkey and Erdogan?
The term Turco-Islam is combination of Turkish racist nationalism and the Turkish way of interpretation of the Islam. Erdogan is product of last 60 years of the Islamist Turkish elements from the Ottomans. They were not very happy with the Turkish Republic. So they become an underground movement. And Erdogan is a product of this Turkish Islamist underground movement that they want Ottomans back, but Ottomans not as the Turkish, Ottoman as the caliphate, ruling the Islamic world. So Erdogan's main idea, his main purpose is the recovery of the caliphate. And Turkish Islam, Neo-Ottomanism, is a tool to commercialize it, to make it something attractive to the Turkish people. We were so glorious in the past. We were so big. We were empire. And look at today. We are, dealing with a couple of Kurds in Syria. They are stopping us to invade Syria, which was former Ottoman colony. And some Kurds in Iraq, they want to be independent state. They wanted to do last referendum in 2017. And Turkey was against it. USA was against it too. But these are former Ottoman lands. We cannot allow Kurds to be independent. So we cannot get this land back under the caliphate, under the Turkish rule. But this idea is so exaggerated, they live in the illusions. The West, especially NATO, the Turkey is member, will never allow this happen. So they were following two-way or two-phase policies. One, very friendly with NATO members, USA, or we want to follow the Turkish Republic, we want to follow Westernization, we want to have a close relation with the Western world. At the meantime, under the table, do everything opposite. Have global caliphate conferences in Turkey. All over those caliphate movements go to Turkey for 2-3 days conferences. And they happen in Ankara, the capital city. Turkish intelligence service, Turkish military intelligence, they all know these guys. But they were not interfering a lot. When Iraq had problem with Saddam regime, that Saddam somehow used for his nationalistic views how to fight Iran, because Shah was not good. He was supporting Kurds in Iraq. And the Kurds in Iraq, they were okay for 5 years, 1970, 1975. They had their first autonomy from Iraqi government. They were supported by Nixon government, administration, Henry Kissinger involved. And one day Henry Kissinger said, you know what, we're not going to support Kurds anymore. And they told Shah of Iran, stop supporting Kurds. And Saddam were able to attack and crush the autonomous region. Until 1990, 2003, that was on and off periods. In this time, from 1967 till 1989, Saddam Hussein regime used chemical weapons against Kurds 28 times. The last one, March 1988, in the city of Halabja, around 15 to 20,000 population, 5,000 people died and 10,000 people severely wounded, and millions of people escaped the region because that was very horrific. Around 1.5 million Iraqi Kurds came to Turkey. Around 2 million and 2.5 million Iraqi Kurds went to Iran, and some of them are still there.
Those chemical weapons, I remember reading an article many years ago, like Telegraph, mainstream paper. This, I think maybe Foreign Policy magazine, declassified documents showed, I'm assuming those chemical weapons that Saddam used in the late 80s, he bought from, or they were given to him by the United States, no? Or the West?
Yes, but United States contribution is much less than Holland, France, Germany, Britain, because Saddam regime and USA were not that close relationship. But other European nations, they were much more open to trade, and they were, oil and other from the region. Oil is the main thing. I believe Iraqi oil is number 2 richest oil in the world by the quality. It's a very high quality oil. So this makes Iraqi oil much more attractive to buy. So when you take it to refinery, it's much easier to deal with it, to make a fuel for the airplanes, fuel for the cars, and get a diesel engine and others. But the main issue with Western government, how they involve in Kurdish issue, is through Turkey. Turkey is a member of NATO, and being member of NATO gives them immunity to Turkey. Turkey commits genocides, nobody talks about it. Turkey commits war crimes, nobody talks about it. Right? At least 4,000 to 5,000 Kurdish villages destroyed in Turkey. Let's say around 3 million Kurds deported from the region, from Kurdistan region in Turkey to the Western Turkey. And maybe 25% of those people left Turkey, Europe, because you lost your house, you lost your belongings, you lost your wealth. And you go to Eastern Turkey, it's a foreign land to you. It's better to go to Europe and heard good things about it, that there is a child care, there is a welfare. If you don't work, the government assists you. This kind of talks is very attractive. So the Syrian refugees, Iraqi refugees, Afghan refugees, Iranian refugees, they all go to USA and Europe because of this kind of a thirst for a better life. You want to live free. You don't want to see police officer every day. You don't want to see military checkup every 10 kilometers. In Europe, there is no such a thing. So people say, why not? Instead of stay in Istanbul, Ankara, and other major cities in Turkey, work minimum wage for 25 years. You cannot buy a house. You cannot buy a car. You cannot buy fridge and dishwasher and other stuff. You know what? I go to Europe. At least in Europe, when you move to the house, the fridge, dishwasher, laundromat is still in the house. You don't have to go and buy. When you rent it all together. From 1960s, when Turkish guest workers, started going to Europe, Germany, France, and Britain, they were recovering from the World War II, so they need foreign labor. And Turkey was okay with Germany, and millions of Turks went to Germany. I can say easily 7 to 8 million Turkish citizens, maybe 5 million Turkish, 3 million Kurdish in Germany. And then they have relatives at back home. They send letters. They were phone calls. They send telegrams at the past. Now there is email and all kinds of social media. I live like this. Then it becomes much more attractive to live. But then you are a Kurd in Germany. You are free to say you are a Kurd. And you set up an association. You set up a language school. But after 5 years, your brother getting married, and you go back to Turkey to do his wedding. And the police arrest you for Kurdish activism in Germany, for Kurdish activism in Canada. You are here 10 years, you become a Kurdish teacher for, your friends' kids. You got 10 kids to learn Kurdish. You open a Kurdish school and become a gossip to the Turkish intelligence. Oh, this guy is doing anti-Turkish activism in Canada, anti-Turkish activism in USA. He is doing a protest for some of the military operations in front of the Turkish embassy in DC, in front of the Turkish embassy in Berlin, in front of the Turkish embassy in Mexico City. So they start recording, they start following, they know. So when you go to Turkey, okay, welcome to your jail. So the Kurdish issue, when it become in diaspora, and they have connection to the back home in Iraq, Saddam Hussein was doing the same thing. All Kurds go back to Iraq, they were arrested. If you don't give $2,000 to $3,000 to a first police officer met you at the border, rest of your story is 5 years jail. Same thing in Syria. So this creates a new consciousness. We have to fight for our rights. So if I can be a Kurd in Germany, if I can be a Kurd in USA, why I cannot be a Kurd in Turkey? And I know there are non-Turkish people in Turkey, like Circassians. They say, I'm Circassian. Greeks and Jews and Armenians, of course, they are Christians, so they are kind of. But then the Balkan people from Balkan go to Turkey with the population transfers. And they say, you know what? I'm from Bosnia. I'm from Bulgaria. In 1989, 1990, at least 1 million Bulgarian Turks welcome to Turkey. because Bulgaria had some openness to say, you know what, you want to be Turkish, you want to go to Turkey, I'll let you go. And 1 million Bulgarian Turks went to Turkey. But after 3-4 years, they didn't realize what they were expecting from Turkey is not what the Turkey they know. So 800,000, 900,000 Bulgarian Turks returned to Bulgaria. And say, you know, we are brothers, we are the same blood. But that's only for the ideologically convinced people. That's why after the World War II, the nationalisms mixed with Nazism, they find out if they purify it, they will be much more happy emotionally, psychologically. And you say, I am not Turkish. Oh, you are against Turkish state. You are against our national unity. You are against our national borders. You want Turkey to be destroyed. So you must be an agent of the Western imperialism. You must be agent of European imperialism and Americans. And the Kurds start fighting Turkey with arms. And the first government was accused was USA. If USA don't support Kurds, they cannot fight Turkey. But the same USA calling Kurds terrorists. 1993, I believe, Turkish military, they put on American uniforms and they attacked Kurdish forces. And during the fight, some people with American uniforms were killed. So they were captured by the Kurdish forces. And Kurdish forces, they contacted the Americans in Baghdad and they say, you know what, there are some Americans got killed during our battle. We'd like to come and take them. So American army, 5-6 personnel, they say, you know what, let's go see. They went to the Kurdish camp. The party is known as PKK, Kurdistan Workers' Party. The Americans met them, talked to them. They take samples from the dead bodies, hair, blood, and other stuff. And a month later, they return to the camp and they say, these guys are not Americans. These guys are Turkish, but somehow they are wearing American military uniforms.
So we can say that was a false flag operation, yes?
Yeah. So Turkey wanted Americans to fight against Kurds. So there is an American-Kurdish war. This was published in American field report that I saw on the Google. It's not, fake or made up. It's in the American Army's records. Then Americans don't say nothing to Turkey. Hey, how many times you did this? Did you attack also with Israeli military uniforms? Did you also attack with French military uniforms? Did you also attack with German military uniforms? Did you also attack with Russian military uniforms? God knows. One day we will find out all about this. But then the Kurds and Americans, they kind of made an agreement, unwritten, informal agreement. You know what? You guys are nice to us. You guys have told us, Americans, this is the situation. We're not going to attack you anymore. And American military and the Kurdish forces from Turkey, they never fought. And Turkey says, yeah, you're calling the guys terrorists, but you're never attacking them. So Turkey, looking for excuses, accusations, to put Americans, French, British, Germans, Italians in the picture that they are anti-Turkish. So if Turkey nationalistically become anti-Western, anti-Christian, it's okay. So this, through Turkish media, print and vision, they start brainwashing Turks after 1980 officially. They say, you know what, all the Turkish problems, because Western imperialism has a hand in it, has a finger in it.
I have a question on that. I was just going to ask you, we've seen in recent years, I think that there were various assassination attempts or coup attempts against Erdogan. I think was it 2022 or 2016 as well. Do you think some of those were false flags or internal Turkish interests or Western attempts?
From 1923 till 1980, Turkish military was the guardian of the republic. That was its official duty. So every time something done against the republic, quote unquote, called Kemalism, the ideology of the Mustafa Kemal, known as also Atatürkism, that Erdogan as a neo-Ottomanist asking for the caliphate, the Turkish army was an obstacle. So to conquer Turkish army, he had to clean inside the army. So it was a false flag operation to take the control of the Turkish army. So he accused one of his junior partner, known as Gulen, Gulen. This is the last name of Fethullah. He is a Muslim preacher, and his movement was very strong in Turkey. It is not an armed rebellion that they will seek. They are mostly civilian movement that they are infiltrating in Ministry of Internal Affairs, Ministry of National Defense, Ministry of Education. So through this infiltration, they were going to conquer the Turkish state. But Erdogan realized it. So he used an excuse attacking on them that they are doing a military coup to get to the power. This military coup, organized by Erdogan and Erdogan's close circle, so they fake it to conquer the Turkish army. And now, as the control of the Turkish army, they can unleash all the Turkish military power on the Kurds. Because in the past, as far as maybe 2010, 2012, when Turkish intelligence were talking with PKK for peace in Turkey, most of the military were already tired of fighting the Kurds. And they realized they made so many mistakes fighting the Kurds, like local militia armed, and many Turkish nationalist groups become a mafia gang in the region, the world. They knew how to operate in the border. So Turkey became also a narcotic state. The dirty money Turkish government made from the narcotics, they used in the war against Kurds. And the money is huge. I could say trillions. Turkey from the Latin America, Africa, from Africa to Europe, from Europe to Turkey, and the rest of the Middle East. Turkey is one of the major narco states in the world. And Turkish mafia, they open up a USA embassy in Ghana, in Africa, and they operated 10 years until US State Department realized that there is a US embassy in Ghana, but not opened by the USA. This is also on the Google. You can search USA embassy in Ghana, and you will get 5, 6 newspaper articles. Turkish gang cannot do this alone without Turkish intelligence involved. And Turkish intelligence, in cooperation with Americans and NATO intelligence, they were okay to do this. They were issuing passports, they were issuing visas. But then it became a major problem in busting the narcotics coming from Latin America to Europe, because it was going through Africa. And Turkish involvement in Africa through the jihadi Salafi movements, Turkey has a very strong presence in Africa. From Nigeria to Boko Haram, to Somalia, Al-Shabaab, the Turkish caliphate movement with intelligence and military intelligence involvement, they are there. And this become a much more known issue because there are many jihadi Salafi movements experts. And if you Google this, you will see Jihad Watch and some other groups. They publish how Turkish involvement with jihadi Salafi movement in Africa. Officially, a guy on TV talked and said, we know Turkey sent arms to Boko Haram. And Turkey involved in Libya. And most of those Turkish fighters in Libya, at least half of them went from Syrian. And Turkish involvement in Syria through ISIS, all the Western jihadi movement militants from Holland and Sweden, Germany, Canada, they went to Turkey. They don't know the language. And from Turkey, somehow they end up in ISIS camps in Syria.
I was going to ask you about Syria. What are your thoughts on Bashar Assad, Syria? And you're mentioning the Salafists. There was a Defense Intelligence Agency document declassified from 2012, which basically said that Western governments were sending assistance, I guess arms, financing, in some cases, perhaps training. And they knew that that was going to some of these extremists, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. And so basically the US, European countries, Turkey. So it seems like I view them as jihadi mercenaries. So the West will use them when to fulfill some of their interests. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Now, Syria, as a Ba'athist, they were in cooperation with the Syrian Communist Party, and this was their connection to the Russia. They become secular. They were not pan-Islamist, they were pan-Arabist. So the Syrian Muslim Brotherhood, in cooperation with the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood, and the Saudi Muslim Brotherhood, and Turkish Muslim Brotherhood, then Muslim Brotherhood become very global power, which Al-Qaeda came out of it. The originally known as Wahhabi, there was a guy named Abdul Wahab, and he said we have to live like the time of the Prophet Muhammad. So Wahhabism is regeneration of Islamic society to live at like the time of the Muhammad and the fourth caliphate. The Syrian Muslim Brotherhood in 1982 did a major uprising. And I have to remember the city. But then Hafiz Assad, Bashar Assad's father, he sent army and intelligence. And 1982, they commit a massacre of 20,000 people. They are Sunni Arabs, pro-Muslim Brotherhood. This became known an international issue, and many Arab states were not happy. But then they all complain about Muslim Brotherhood. You know what happened to Mohammed Morsi when he became a president of Egypt, and Sisi took over the government and coup d'etat. This guy was also asking the same. And Erdogan, as part of Turkish Muslim Brotherhood, because of they are in Turkey too. So to get rid of Bashar Assad, they used Arab Spring as an excuse. So they want democracy in Syria. So people were demonstrating, marching. We want more freedom. But more freedom for who? For Muslim Brotherhood? Like Syria as a secular state, the women are very open. They are not covered. If you want to practice Islam, Syria does not say you cannot practice Islam. But they wanted Syria to become much more Islamist because majority of Arabs in Syria are Sunnis. The opposite of Iraq. The majority of Iraqi Arabs are Shia. That's why there is very good connection with Iran. So the Syrian Muslim Brotherhood, they, in cooperation with Turkey, they say, you know what, if you give us weapon, if you give us intelligence, if you give us satellite images through USA and Europe, we know where is the Syrian army is, so we can attack, and we create an overthrow of Assad regime. So Turkey said Assad is not good, Assad is committing crime, massacres to his people, Syria is not democracy. So Erdogan started making noise about Syria. And the Syrian Muslim Brotherhood, they also exaggerated their power in Syria. If you give us weapon, in 6 months, Assad will run away to Russia, Moscow. So Turkey said, you know what, let's take advantage of this situation. So I will occupy Kurdish territories in Syria and let the rest of Syria, ruled by the Muslim Brotherhood, and they are like us, so we will have a very good relationship. But then Turkey cannot do all this alone. So they need Britain, UK, Italy, others. So we cannot call them one by one individually. Say, you know what, I can do this with the global coalition. Let's create something else with the NATO. All global coalition members, also NATO members. So USA, after the consultation with Turkey, seeing how easy, how nice job it will be. Erdogan said, in 6 months, I will pray in Damascus. This is in the Google search. If you say, Erdogan said, I will pray in Damascus, you will see some newspaper articles. It comes up. But then, they started training equipment program for the jihadis. And for USA to say, okay, I am training and equipping them, giving military aid in training, is supposed to be moderate. Someone that USA agree. They are not like Afghan Mujahideen and others. And many of these guys came from Poland, Germany, Italy, France, UK, Canada. They were foreign jihadis, but originally refugees and immigrants went from Middle East. Very few converted Western people joined ISIS and others. So they set up 2 camps in Turkey. They start giving training to them. But as soon as training finished, they were close to Syrian border. They went to Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda in Syria. They went to ISIS. Up to border, they were moderates. As soon as they cross the border, they become Salafi jihadi terrorists. They become Al-Qaeda and ISIS. So Turkey actually lied to the NATO members because they had their own plan for Syria. They had their own plan for Iraq. But another issue is ISIS, as a small group in Iraq, they attacked Turkish consulate in Mosul in Iraq. And they were negotiating with Turkish government to release the embassy staff, consulate staff, and the consul himself. And after the talks, an ISIS ambassador to Turkey, ISIS designated an ambassador for Turkey. He went to Turkey and discussed the issue with Turkey. And Turkey is talking to an ambassador from ISIS like ISIS is something. It's like Hamas or Hezbollah or any other organizations. They will send a representative to USA, say, you know what, this is Al-Qaeda ambassador. So let's have him in the Pentagon, let's have him in the White House and talk. Same thing happened in Turkey with ISIS ambassador. So they agreed to fight Kurds. ISIS said, you know what, I'm going to capture Iraq, I'm going to capture Syria. I have 40,000, 50,000 militants, all armed, all dedicated. And Turkey said, sure, let's go. What you need, I help you. So they say, we want people that we recruit through the internet, social media. They want to come and join us. We want them to come to Turkey. So we want Turkish intelligence, Turkish guides to help them as soon as they land in the airport, put them in the minibus, big bus, and deliver them to Syria. So the Syrian issue is actually created by Turkey because they were, what they call the, lied by the Muslim Brotherhood of Syria. They exaggerated their power in Syria. But Syrian intelligence, they were following them for years. Their biggest mistake, the Syrian leadership, Assad and others, they did not calculate how extreme Turkey will be in this case. And Turkey is anti-Kurdish and Assad is anti-Kurdish. So they were kind of cooperating on anti-Kurdish issue. So whatever Turkey attacked Kurds in Syria, Assad regime, Syrian government was okay. But then Turkey went in and occupied a region called Afrin, originally occupied by the Russian forces, but Turkey become an ally of Russia and say, you know what, we want to take over the region from you. And Russia said, okay. So Russia became anti-Kurdish officially. And then Turkey occupied two other parts, thanks to American ambassador or American envoy on that time, James Jeffrey. He told Kurds not to attack Turkey, so Turkey occupies some area. They're supposed to make truce. But also they lied to Trump administration that historically this part are Turkish and Americans already running the oil fields and whatever they want to have, this and that. So they create an agreement. Trump administration will agree Turkish peace. But it was also another psychological operation against USA to get what they want from the Kurds. It was already too late. Now the Syrian issue become two parts. Iran, Hezbollah, and other Shia Islamist groups supporting Assad and Russia supporting them. Turkey, USA, and global coalition supporting Sunni Arabs, supposedly moderates from the beginning for 2-3 years, and they become al-Nusra, ISIS, and many others. And all of them are Salafist, all of them are jihadist, all of them are anti-Western, anti-Christian. You know, with the beheadings, the Christian reporters, Western reporters, with the beheadings of others, even burning alive some of those people, and they published the videos. So they were extremely brutal to make people obedient to their rule.
I wanted to bring up, I have a few books here I highly recommend. This one is by Robert Dreyfuss. It's called Devil's Game, How the United States Helped Unleash Fundamentalist Islam. And then I've got another book, which I've never read yet. I don't know if it was a source mentioned in this book or by William Engdahl, The Society of the Muslim Brothers by Richard P. Mitchell. And so I haven't read this book yet. And you're bringing them up. They are an important topic to know about. And so maybe I eventually need to read more about them. You mentioned Hezbollah and Hamas. And I wanted to get then also your big picture view on the wider Middle East and this talk of World War III and Israel and Iran, the back and forth that's going on. What do you think is going to happen? You know, Israel-Palestine, just briefly, how do you see the trend? Where are we going? I just feel like we are moving towards a regional war, a greater conflict. What are your thoughts?
The American involvement with Islamic movements goes back to Afghanistan. At the time, Afghanistan fighting Russia or Soviet Union, 1979, they were extremists, mujahideens. But USA didn't care because they were anti-communist. They were anti-Soviets. They supported them until the Soviets left. Soviet left and they let this guy alone. And Taliban, which is the wrong name for the leadership in Afghanistan. Taliban in Arabic means student. In 1977, 1979, students, especially university students, were fighting Afghan government, and they were called Taliban at that time. Today's Taliban is nothing to do with Taliban. These guys are illiterate. Now, USA let Taliban or Afghan government to rehabilitate. They bring up Hamid Karzai. They brought Khalilzad as a counselor to show them how to become a nation state again, because Afghanistan was a failed state, needed fixing. They failed after Al-Qaeda 9/11 issue. So they attacked Afghanistan again for different reasons. They want to correct their mistake they did in 1980s, but it didn't work because you already gave a legitimate reason for this guy to be there. So 2020-21, when USA said, I'm going to leave Afghanistan, and I'm going to deal from external issues, these guys are still sane. They were even in Syria fighting against Assad. They were Taliban fighters. Not Taliban, they called Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Now, your question, how Americans made the mistake about this Islamist. Because America has allies like Turkey and Pakistan. And whenever there is an issue, you want to ask somebody, you ask your allies. But Turkey and Pakistan, they are not allies of anybody, especially USA. So they, through their psychological operations, false intelligence reports on the issues. Like for 10 years, America wanted to kill Osama bin Laden, and finally they find him in Pakistan. I mean, American intelligence couldn't find him in Pakistan because Pakistan was using him for their own purpose in Afghanistan. But then for Americans to realize after 10 years that they cannot trust Pakistanis and they have to do an operation to kill Osama bin Laden, then Osama bin Laden become worthless. Honestly, if Osama bin Laden alive today, he called for a demonstration downtown Washington, I don't think 100 people will show up for him. It's not the same when you have a demonstration against Israel and you ask for everybody to come. That's why anti-Israel and Islamic ideology, in Islamic movement, has a much stronger attraction. Hezbollah is Shia, just like Iran, just like Hafiz Assad, just like current Iraqi government. So there is Shia power, some in Yemen, some in Libya, other areas. So whenever there is Muslim community, there is Shia community too. Sunnis are well known. They tend to be the majority, but there is always a conflict. We are a better Muslim, and I don't call you Muslim. For Sunni, Shia is not a Muslim. And for Shia, he is the true Muslim. Sunnis are fake. So when you deal with the issue from the nation-state perspective, you cannot get these two people together. In Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, in Libya. So it's very difficult for Western government to have, you are belong to the same nation, forget about the religion. You are both two Arab. No, there is 22 Arab states. Libya, Morocco, Algeria, Saudis, Yemen, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait. They are one nation, they have 22 states. America is not even one nation, but they have 50 states. There's Italian Americans, Spanish Americans, Chinese Americans, Kurdish Americans, Turkish Americans, German Americans, but everyone's American. But over there, no. So the World War II, the re-evaluation, the nationalism with racism, the effect of Nazism, still strong in this mind and this consciousness. To break this, we have a long way to go.
Do you, Sue, and just to go back, do you feel things will continue as they are for a while? Or do you know, we saw the wars, Iraq invading Iran in the 80s, U.S. invading Iraq in the 90s and the 2000s. Israel's now bombing Lebanon, Yemen, Iran is bombing Israel, Syria. I mean, there's rockets flying all over the place. Do you think we will just continue with this status quo, or do you feel there will be escalation coming soon from somewhere?
Now, Israel created 1948. Many Arab nations at that time, and Muslim nations like Turkey, Iran, Malaysia, Pakistan, they are not Arab, but they are Muslim. They were not okay with this. So most of the Arab nation states, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Iraq, Syria, they were saying, no, we don't accept. Syria, Iraq, and Egypt, 2 times they attacked Israel, 1967, 1971. In both they lost. Israel won. Then they created the Palestinian problem. So instead of calling Arabs as a citizen of Israel, they say, no, let's destroy Israel. PLO, and after PLO, Islamic Jihad, after Islamic Jihad, Hamas, and after Hamas, Hezbollah, they have one focus: destroying Israel, committing another Holocaust, sending all Jews back to Europe, and this land will be Arab and Islamist. But Hamas does not have an air force. Hezbollah does not have an air force. You don't have armored tanks, vehicles to protect yourself against rockets, against airplanes. What Hamas has? 10,000 militants holding AK-47. How good is this? So what you do terrorism. You kidnap people, you bomb restaurants, suicide bombings, you hijack airplanes to say, I am committed to a struggle, I am fighting against you. But this kind of fight is not a national liberation movement. I cannot call you non-state armed group, answer. So Israel refused. And Western governments, Europeans and Americans, they say, you know what? Maybe we should involve. Let's make peace. So there was Camp David I, Camp David II. They brought Yasser Arafat. They brought Isaac Rabin. They killed Isaac Rabin because he signed the peace. Then they brought Shimon Peres. He signed it again. And they say two-state solution. Now, Palestinian has a chance to become a state. So you do your work to become a state. You have 20 Arab countries and another 20 Muslim countries to support you with money, intelligence, education, training, how to set up your own nation state, Palestinian state. And in Gaza, Hamas went to election and become a government of Gaza. October 6, Hamas was government of Gaza. October 7, Hamas became back to a terrorist organization, attacking Jews who were in a music festival, unarmed, nothing against Palestinians, and they massacred people, and they took hostages. And they say, we took hostages because we want to negotiate new conditions with Israel. But who gives a shit to 200 people? It's Israel, a nation state survival. They will give up all Israel, state, air force, ships, everything for 200 hostages? No. And through the contacts for years, they know Hamas inside out well. They know how many times they go to Tehran, how many times they go to Ankara, how many times they go to Cairo, who they meet, how they meet. So they killed Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. Who made this possible? Iran made this possible, Turkey made this possible, Qatar made this possible. They could protect the guy, say, you know what? You are head of the Gaza government. You are like a prime minister. Do your thing. Why you want to fight Israel with 5,000 armed militants? That with this 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 armed militants cannot defeat Israel. And you already signed two-state solutions. Why go back to square one? Go back to point zero.
Well,
Then Hezbollah answered, but Israeli intelligence and other Western intelligence following Hezbollah for years. They committed terrorism in Argentina, they bombed here, they bombed there. So they become a target for the intelligence. So they knew the power of Hezbollah. Where is Hezbollah? What they do? Oh, cell phones are not good. We're going to use pagers. Pagers are safer. They cannot listen to conversation. They cannot know who want to meet where, how. So Hezbollah was in Syria, and they were fighting with Sunni jihadis, and many Hezbollah members got killed. What they find on the dead Hezbollah militants? They find the pagers. So this become a news. All the guys say, you know what? They are using pagers. Why? Why they are using pagers? So Israelis heard about it. Oh, Hezbollah using pagers. Why they are using pagers? Oh, they are using so we cannot kind of GPS locate them. We cannot know the hierarchy of Hezbollah, how the Hassan Nasrallah talking to the guys in the street. 5-6 months intelligence, you find out how they do it. So 1,000, 2,000 pages exploded. If Hezbollah were much more smarter, you do your own studies. You know what, I am doing this against Israel. What could be Israel's anti-operation against this? This is your survival. So you let it go. Then Israel attack and cause this. Then it become much more open during the chaos. How many times Nasrallah changes his location, where he goes, what he does. Because time of crisis, you need safety. And 3 or 4 of the locations that we know you feel safe, we will wait for you to come there. That's how they eliminated him. That's how they eliminated Ismail Haniya. He was in Tehran, the most safest place on earth for him, but he got assassinated. This kind of mistakes.
Nasrallah, the successor to Nasrallah, I'm just reading, who was supposed to be his cousin Hashim Safieddin, they say that he's missing now, that he was hit, and we don't know if he's dead or not. And so, do you take this as, when you mentioned earlier Iran, you think Iran let the assassination of, was it the Hamas head happen, or these guys are just too weak, Hezbollah and Iran and Hamas?
Now, if we consider 2 or 3 factors, one of them is this guy know that Israel is looking for them. So they know Qatar, Turkey, and Iran are their protectors, their supporters, big time. But Israel already know if they go these places, we have to have an operation ready, at least to show our force, to show what we are able to. So the Hassan Nasrallah's successor cannot be in Turkey, cannot be in Iran. Most probably, in my opinion, he will be in Saudi Arabia, because Israel will not do anything against Saudi Arabia. For those guys to be safe, and for Saudis to say, you know what, okay, come here. Although you are Shia, but we want you to stay because you know Iran. We can use you, what you know about Iran. So you are good for us. Not because of his own safety, because what he knows about Iran is good for Saudis. So they might offer him something to speak up, tell all the information you know. If he's not in Saudis, he could be in Qatar, my second choice. Qatar is very good with USA. Qatar is very good with Iran and Turkey also. And they are okay with Israel too. So I don't think Israel will commit another assassination in Qatar. If anyone still alive as a successor of Nasrallah, honestly, I don't think he will be somewhere else. Anywhere else that Hezbollah has a strong presence, other than Lebanon, that Israel is doing this to Hezbollah in Lebanon, he will not be in Lebanon. But evaluating what we know according to current factors, inputs, is not to say, like for sure, it might be still in Beirut, in an underground tunnel, 7th floor that, GPS satellite locators cannot penetrate. It could be in a really, in a ship, in a Beirut port that has, aluminum bolts and some others that any satellite cannot go through to locate cell phone or to locate a pager or something else. These guys are wrong in fighting Israel this way. Lebanon is Lebanon, and Hezbollah is a power, is a party in Lebanon, occupying a territory. They open up, they set up their own self-government. They were running hospitals, they were running universities. They are a government inside a government. They are a state inside a state. To protect yourself, what you have, you declare a war against Israel. As I said, you don't have air force. You don't have tanks. You don't have armored vehicles. Like sending few hundred rockets, sending a couple suicide bombers will never bring end of Israel. And through Israel, innovations, technology, industrial development, Israel at the point of no return. They cannot beat Israel, whatever they do. Even 22 Arab countries come together, and there will be United Nations, US, even Russia and India will come to protect Israel. They will not let all these guys to attack Israel. For Islamist movements to reevaluate how they're going to accept Israel is a major problem, how they realize what is democracy for them. What is an Islamic tolerance that you have a Christian next door neighbor, you have a Jewish next door neighbor, and you have to learn how to live with it.
To bring things...
According to Holy Book Quran, when you die, they don't ask you who you are. They don't ask you what is your religion. Where did you die? The Holy Book Quran says, two angels, that they record your good deeds and your sins, one on your right, one on your left. They will ask you how you lived your life. According to that, you will be chosen to go to heaven or hell. You die as a Jewish or Christian or Buddhist or an atheist. The angels doesn't care. They care only how you live your life. This is Holy Book Quran says. But these guys say, if you are not Muslim, I have to kill you because you are an infidel. The Holy Book says kill you. They are all lying. They are reinterpreting things for their own benefit because they are ideologically brainwashed by others to act this way. Okay, I am a Hamas militant, I am a Hezbollah militant, I am a Al-Nusra militant, I am an ISIS militant, and I have this message to you. You are a Christian, you are a Jewish, you are atheist. If you are not become one of me, I cannot let you live. But you tell the guy, listen, what you say, open the book, show it to me. Too late. Now they are burning the books in Sweden, burning the books somewhere else. We don't have book to read anymore. The idea how to reform these Arab societies, these Muslim societies, and to let them to live with Christianity and Jewish and many other religions. Because you are responsible only for yourself. Like in Iran, they kill a lady, she was Kurdish, her name was Gina, but in Persian, she was known as Masa Amini. She didn't have proper head cover, and she got killed for that. I mean, is this an understandable reason to kill someone? So her hair was a little bit visible to anyone, so what? But they made a law not to do it, and they made a police force to follow women to see if they are obeying the law or not. Why you want to have a police force just for this cause? Because women are half of the nation, half of the society. If you want to control the nation, you have to control at least half of it easily. So this idea, how to become Islamic society, via Neo-Ottomanist Turkish with Erdogan, with the Ayatollah Khomeini, now is Khamenei in Iran, or Mohammed Morsi in Egypt, or even Saddam Hussein, before he died, he put Allah the greatest on Iraqi flag. But Saddam was an atheist. He never believed God, he never believed Islam. But he saw an advantage to his benefit. He put it on the Iraqi flag. And the Western governments, through their modernization and westernization policies, they go this Middle East after they find oil, and oil is good for industry, good for everything. So they're supposed to introduce industrialization, so the oil will be at a certain level, and then it will be okay to export it. But also these people, they has to be re-educated to have the tolerance to live with other culture, other nations. You see, they come to North America, Canada and USA, they walk on the street with Islamic dress, they open up mosques, they are free. But when there's ISIS, they take their passport and they go back to join. So these countries, in sociology, we call it immigration and multiculturalism and naturalization. But this progress was stopped 1960s. They're re-educating the refugees and immigrants to live in Western society according to Western laws and rules and regulations. The guy is 16 years old, he goes to a street, he finds a girl and he tries to rape. If you educate the person, say, listen, you go to jail 10 years, 20 years for this. You want a woman, you can pay hooker $20. You don't have to go and rape. You know, so this westernization and modernization of newcomers, immigrants and refugees, and also the policies, let's say USA and Turkey has a bilateral relations. Many American institutions, they have offices in Turkey. They do training, they do teaching, they involve in joint programs, doing public opinion surveys. How do Turks think about Americans? And 70% of Turks says, I hate America. Same thing with the Germans. There are lots of German institutions in Turkey and they do common studies. The last one I saw like 2 months ago, around 60% of Turks living in Germany, they hate Germany. Unbelievable. I mean, some of these guys born in Germany, they are half Turkish, they speak broken Turkish, they have German citizenship, they go to German school and say, you know what, I am not happy here. Strange, because this reintegration and re-education policies, somehow they stop. Now they call it multiculturalism, let all the culture live together. Yes, up to a certain degree, it's okay. But that's the mistake they make, that when the foreigner come, after a certain time passed, that foreigner should not be foreigner anymore. You yourself, a Croatian Mexican, if you meet another Croatian Mexican, born and grow up there, and if you say, nice to meet you, let's go have a coffee, and you both speak the same language, and another Mexican from Lebanon, he's an Arabic, dressed up like that, come to you guys and say, oh, why you guys don't speak Spanish? This is Mexico. I said, brother, you are in Mexico too. Why you dress up like Saudi Arabia or Egyptian or Kuwaiti guy? When you accuse other side, next person next to you, look at yourself first. How I do it, what I do. I am here to work, make money, buy a house, buy a car, to have a better life that I didn't have it back home. You are not here to criticize your neighbor why they are not Muslim, why they don't go to mosque. This has to stop. The only way I can see this, like the Kurdish case in Turkey, the Kurds want to be Kurds in Turkey. And Turkey say, no, you got to be Turkish. So they left. They go to Germany. You don't see in Germany Kurds become a major headache. Some part of the population always will be. But when you get the big picture, Kurds are adapting to Western culture. Kurds are adapting, Western way of living. Honestly, I see lots of Kurds even returning to Christianity. Like, I met guys, they say, you know what, I'm not Muslim anymore. I convert to Christianity. I say, good for you. That's your choice, that's your life. When you die, according to Bible, you will be judged. And again, they will ask how you lived your life. Did you die as a Kurd? No. Did you die as an Indian? No. Did you die as a South African? No. They're not going to ask you that. That the Holy Book says we don't ask. We ask how you live your life. You live life as a good person? Thank you. So for Kurds to deal with Arabic nationalism, Persian nationalism, Turkish nationalism, that they want Kurds to be something else. But Kurds already have their own consciousness, their own ethnic identity. They are also at the point of no return. They already know how to fight Iraqi government. They already know how to fight Syrian government. They're already fighting Ayatollahs in Iraq. They're also fighting Turkey in Turkey. They are armed. And they say, no, you're going to accept us as a Kurd. So for outsiders like USA and NATO to say time to involve, let's finish this conflict. The Kurds are not hijacking airplanes. The Kurds are not doing suicide bombing in restaurants. The Kurds are not, anything that they can call terrorism. Kurds are not doing it. Can they do it? Oh, yes. Kurds in Syria, 100,000 armed force. Kurds in Iraq, 120, 150,000 armed force. Kurds in Iran, I can say around 40,000 armed force. Kurds in Turkey, PKK, this is my estimate, around 25,000 armed militants and around 10 million supporters. From this point, and Iraqi Kurds already have their regional government, Syrian Kurds, sooner or later, they will have their regional government recognized by the Western government. Then it's Kurds in Turkey and Kurds in Iran. So Kurds in Turkey, they go to parliamentary elections, they have political parties, they are recognized, and they have 70 member of parliament. And Turkey had a peace talks with PKK in Oslo, in Sweden, from 2008, 2013, for 5 years. But because ISIS became a power in Iraq and Syria, and Turkey went along with that, Turkey didn't sign the peace agreement with PKK. If Turkey signed it, it will be much, much better. Turkey spending maybe 30% of its national budget on the war, plus the dirty money from narcotics, another 30%, really huge money. That money can remake Turkey. You can open much, much better hospitals. You can open much, much better urban settlements. You can have much, much better refugee programs for Syrians or Afghans, whoever in Turkey. You can help them, re-educate them, give them Turkish citizenship, whatever. But all those money wasted on the bombs, wasted on the weapons on the books and scholarships given to Turks to say, prove me scientifically Kurds are Turkish. Kurds are not exist. In 1920s, Turkey said Kurds not exist at all. There is no Kurds, zero population. 1930s, they said, you know what, this is too much. Let's call the Kurds Mountain Turkish. So because the Kurds live in the mountain region, they forgot who they are. They start making a different language, look like not Turkish. So we re-educate them, we make them Turks again. So mountain Turks were okay. 1960s, after the Kurdish population integrated Turkey, they went to universities. They were not illiterate people anymore. They were not tribal people anymore. They become scholars, doctors, lawyers. They become ambassadors. They become politicians. They hide their Kurdishness. But when the time comes, they say, you know what, actually I am Kurdish. So in 1978, one of the Kurdish politicians in Turkish parliament, he said, I am Kurdish in the parliament. Oh, he was taken to court, 20 years jail, imprisonment, torture, everything. But he was a politician, and politicians supposed to have immunity. He lost his immunity. Then the guy became a retired ambassador. He wrote his memories. You know what, actually I am Kurdish. This become so many. Even the former Turkish president, Turgut Özal, who was 1982, 1987 president of Turkey, he said, I am Kurdish. And 2 years later, he got killed. And I'm very sure he got killed because he admitted he's Kurdish. And Turkish military, Turkish intelligence or combination of them call a deep state, they didn't like it. And in Turkey, honestly, there is two deep states. One still struggling to keep Turkey as a Kemalist republic, and the other one is giving all his support to Turkey, Ottoman, Erdogan, to make Turkey great power again. One of those illegal organizations called Sadat, S-A-D-A-T. How Hitler had SS, Erdogan has these guys. And these guys are involved in all dirty things. Training of jihadis in Syria, training of jihadis in Turkey, weapon deliveries through trucks and others, boats to Syria and Lebanon. Some of these guys are even from, let's say, 15 years ago, they were less visible at that time, that they did Blue Marmara ship. They're supposed to deliver humanitarian goods to Gaza, but Israeli military somehow find out these guys are delivering weapons. So Israeli military attacked the ship, 9 Turkish citizens killed. It's called Mavi Marmara incident. If you Google it, you will see. So from all these things, the NATO is calling Kurds terrorists, especially the Kurdish fight in Turkey against Turkey. If the Kurds are terrorists, they should attack Britain. If the Kurds are terrorists, they should attack France or anyone else. But Kurds are not attacking. Kurds are fighting only with Turkey. And all official documents of PKK say, we are fighting Turkey alone. We don't believe in terrorism. There is there's no, those incidents that for USA to say Kurds are doing terrorism or NATO countries. And Turkey, during the peace process in Oslo, 2008-2013, refused to accept USA, UK, and any other countries as a third party. But USA did third party for UK and IRA. They signed the peace agreement called Good Friday. So Kurds are waiting for Good Saturday agreement. Let's have an agreement the next day. Because Kurds asking for the peace. Abdullah Öcalan, the General Secretary of PKK, sent a letter to Bill Clinton, 1993. He asked Bill Clinton to make peace between Kurds and Turkey. In 1995, Bill Clinton put PKK on terror list. These guys ask you for peace. Why are you putting the party on the terror list? Because Turkey, they put too much pressure. They find out about the letter, they say, no, no, no. In 1997, PKK sent a letter to UN, say we want UN peacekeeping office to involve as a third party. Go to Turkish government, say PKK wants peace. And they say, no, we cannot involve.
So, I take it we've covered a lot: history, geopolitics, empire. The Kurds will continue on existing, and as you say, maybe one of these days there will be this agreement. I just remembered many years ago, some decades ago, when I was looking for work around the world, one job opportunity that I didn't take, but I saw that was offered to teach English in Kurdistan. I never ended up going, but there are those job positions still, because, as you said, I think the Americans in Iraq, they are friendly with the Kurds, that part of the world. And so I do have one more question. How is it in terms of traveling to some parts of Kurdistan, like Kurdistan, Iraq? Can it be done easily, or are there some parts where it's very dangerous?
No, Kurdistan, Iraq, and Kurdistan, Syria is okay to visit. They are safe for foreigners. In my opinion, there is at least 100,000 Americans living in Iraqi Kurdistan. And there is a Americans in Kurdistan YouTube channel. They have like 200 videos. Americans living in Kurdistan, they made 20 minutes, half an hour videos, and they post there. You can see how the Americans living in Kurdistan. And many of them are scholars at universities, many of them are experts, and many of them, they have their own businesses. And some of them not single guys, they're their families. And Kurdistan in Syria, the major part that controlled by SDF is safe. They have universities open, They have hospitals that looking hiring foreign trained doctors and other professionals because cancer you need someone expert, and some other diseases you need people to work in those hospitals, health centers, and pharmacists, and also some medicine production, some factories. So you cannot buy everything from USA, you cannot buy everything from Europe. Customs are controlled by the Syrian government, customs are controlled by the Turkish government. So they are dependent on certain humanitarian aid. As I said, Iraqi Kurdistan is safe, Syrian Kurdistan is safe for foreigners to go visit, work. But Turkey and Iran, definitely not. If you hide your purpose of visit in Turkey, you don't, make noticeable, you're asking questions, you meet people, and Turkish intelligence will find out about you. You will be deported for sure. They used to arrest, put in jail 6 months, 1 year, but lately they usually deport.
All right. We've covered a lot. Any final thought for us? And then if you want to tell us where's the best place to find you, is it principally your X account? You also have a page on academia.edu?
Yes. After losing my articles and websites that they are defunct now, I started writing again last year and this year, and I have maybe 6 or 7 articles. And I have one article published in 2004 when America invaded Iraq. It was about Kurdish self-determination and end of Iraq. Iraq was a failed state. 3 times in the history, the Kurds had a chance to separate and have an independent state from rest of Iraq. But because Americans and British involved, their involvement, in my opinion, blocked Kurdish statehood. They say the Kurds are not ready to become an independent state. The last time was 2017. Turkey, USA, and many European nations, they were against Iraqi Kurds to hold a referendum to become independent. There was no reason, international law, there was no reason US national security and strategic interest for Europeans to be against it. And because they were against it at that time, today we are seeing the consequences. If Kurdistan was independent today, it wouldn't have Syrian civil war that Turkey involved. We wouldn't have mass uprisings in Iran because people finding encouragement from positive development somewhere else. And the Kurds, because they are in 4 states, whatever happened in one part of Kurdistan, it has a good effect on other parts. And if the Kurds are free in Iraq, the Kurds in Turkey will fight to be free as they are. And Kurds in Syria are already free as much as Iraqi Kurds, and the Iraqi Kurds in Iran. This will create an international public opinion to support Kurds. How the international public opinion supporting Palestinians? Thousands of people go street to demonstrate against Israel. Honestly, I like to see same support for the Kurds. Turkey illegalized Kurdish language from getting spoken. Turkey illegalized alphabet letters X, W, and Q. Israel never illegalized speaking Arabic. Israel never illegalized dancing and singing in Arabic. But Turkey illegalized dancing and singing in Kurdish. I had contact by PhD students and scholars. They did some studies comparing Palestinian struggle and Kurdish struggle. I say, I'm sorry, you cannot compare. Yes, there are similarities, both occupied, both people, both facing a nation state with air force and national armies. Yes, but the way they got treated, Palestinians had a chance for 2-state solutions. Imagine 2-state solution for Kurds in Turkey. But who will say from the Western governments to Turkey, let's talk 2-state solution about Kurds in Turkey? That's impossible.
All right, Hadi, thank you for this massive crash course on Kurdistan and the Kurdistan question. Your links are in the description to your X, Hadi _ ELIS. Thank you for being on Geopolitics and Empire.
You're very welcome. This is the Kurdish flag.
Like it's on your hat as well, yeah?
Yes. Thank you. Appreciate it.